Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name's Dick Fleming. I was a member of First Force Recon during the Vietnam War, and I've been telling my stories to anyone who listened for quite a while. I wrote a book called Chasing Charlie, which is available on Amazon. You might be interested in that. And I also have a website called firstforcerecon.com. And there's some resources there that have links to Recon Battalion, for example, their website, and some other resources that you might find interesting. There's also photographs out there from my time in Vietnam, and also photographs that other people have sent me from the Recon community. So firstforcerecon.com is a good resource, I believe. What I'd like to talk to you tonight about is our time at An Hoa around the Christmas season. We had been there about, I guess, 4 or 5 months at that point, and we had managed to fortify our base. When we first got there, it was basically a barren field. The Seabees had set up the tent platforms, but that's about it. But by this time, we had established a very secure fortress for ourselves, and we needed it to be secure because every evening we were rocketed from the hills overlooking the compound. The air base was a prime target for the NVA. They wanted to hit those cargo planes and helicopters that were parked at the end of the runway there. And even though they didn't seem to be attacking us directly, those rockets weren't very accurate, and they would go off course or land where they would, and more than our share of rockets landed right in our compound. We had set up these concrete culverts. I don't know where we got them from. You know, they're about 3 feet tall. Just basically concrete tubes, about that thick concrete, and we each tent got 1 or 2, and we barricaded the ends with sandbags, giving just enough space to squeeze in, and the sandbags would hopefully stop shrapnel from entering the culvert. We got good at getting into those culverts. When that alarm went off, or we heard an explosion, you can bet that I would roll right out of my cot and right into that culvert without even getting up. You know, all I did was grab my flak jacket and helmet, and I had them right by my cot, and I grabbed my M16, and that was it. I was trying to protect myself. And actually, an ad hoc solution, but it worked fairly well. And when we used to get back from our missions, we usually had, after 1 or 2 days of being off, we were assigned to work details. At least the enlisted men were. The officers, they were free to do whatever they wanted, but we were out there digging trenches or putting up sandbags and continuing to fortify our position. And during the day, sometimes we were on guard duty, and we would go out to these bunkers on all sides of our compound, and observe, make sure we weren't going to be attacked. It was a broad field that stretched for about 1/4 of a mile around us, so we had excellent visibility. There was no cover. We had free fire zones, and we had our M60 set up on interlacing fire so that it'd be very difficult for a frontal assault to be successful. And we also had a 50 caliber mounted up on a tower above our compound that provided additional cover for us. Well, one day Bo and I were out and we had set up our claymores and everything, and we were getting ready for the evening. It was late in the afternoon, and we heard a chopper coming in, and we thought it was going to land in our compound. They usually did, but this one landed right outside, right in front of us, outside of our wire. A brand new C-47. It really looked slick. didn't have that mangled look that the Marine Corps C-46s had. It even had windows in it. You know, we had bashed out the windows on all our C-46s so we could fire out. But this thing was pristine, and following it in were about 5 or 6 more Hueys. So, and they were all loaded with Special Forces guys who jumped out, and they unloaded a tent, they unloaded some beer, and they set up, the first thing they did was set up a beer hall right outside of our compound. And it wasn't long before everybody, all the Marines, were actively trading with them. They had nice tiger stripe utilities, really cool looking. They had their berets, the green berets. If they had any extra berets, you know, we'd trade them. They really coveted our K-bar knives. You know, this is probably the best fighting knife ever designed. You know, it's perfectly balanced, and we used it for everything, from opening cans or cutting blocks of C4 in half, or cutting a claymore in half so we could make 2 claymores out of one. You call it a utility knife, and it really is a utility knife. You know, it can be used for lots of things. It's a hefty weapon. We used to practice throwing these, you know, for hours at a time. We'd have competitions, and we got to be very good. I mean, you could throw this knife 20, 30 feet, and it would spin and sink into a piece of wood. You know, it's deadly. Of course, you didn't want to throw. Really, in combat, you wouldn't want to throw away your knife if you didn't have to. But it was a good skill to learn. But the Army guys liked this knife, and you know, we saw the captain coming toward us, and he was just loaded full of stuff. This guy was in charge of intelligence, the S2, and really strange, because he didn't have much intelligence, in my opinion, the intelligence of a snail. But that's just me speaking. But he came by, and Bo said, "Sir, these guys are setting up right in front of us." And you can know how to literally, yeah. But sir, as he walked away, he goes, "Sir, they're right in the middle of our fire zone. They're in our fire zone." And he turns to Bo, and he's kind of irritated, and he goes, "Not your problem, Marine." Well, wasn't Bo's problem, but they were in a hell of a position. They picked a terrible place to park their choppers and have their beer, because that evening we were rocketed again as usual, and the rockets flew right over our heads and landed somewhere on the other end of the airfield there. And in the morning, those guys couldn't wait to pack up their shit and bugger out of there. They were gone. They were gone in an hour or so, like they were never there. Well, so we continued on. We got some gear, some good backpacks, and some guys liked to wear the Tiger Strike utilities. They looked cool compared to the Marine Corps camouflage utilities. So you know, we pursued the entrepreneurial lifestyle of America deep in Vietnam. Well, at this point, it was getting very near to Christmas Eve, and Bo and I, once again, we were in the bunker, protecting the compound. We were on guard duty protecting the compound. And we had set up our claymores and zeroed in our M60s and established communications, and made sure that all our boxes of ammo were accessible, and we were all set for the night. And night fell as it usually did in Vietnam. Usually a beautiful night. You know, it wasn't in the monsoon season, and we, as it turned Christmas Eve, as it turned to Christmas at 12 o'clock, we could hear in the distance some Marine singing "Silent Night, Silent Night," and there was at first only a single person singing, but as the song the voices got louder and louder and louder as additional Marines joined in, and soon the entire place was echoing with the words of the song of Silent Night, and it almost, you know, it brought tears to my eyes. You know, you had that feeling of nostalgia for home. You know, Christmas, of course, is a time you want to be with your friends and family, and you know, I'm sure, you know, Bo was a Catholic. I'm sure he wanted to go to church, you know, and there wasn't any Catholic church available. Here we were stuck in this hellhole of An Hoa. Well, the song ended, you know, and everything became quiet for a moment. And then you could hear the artillery battery behind us starting up again. Bam, 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 and it was throwing artillery shells into the hills. That was Vietnam. The next day was Christmas Day, and I got a package. I didn't get packages very often. And a lot of people got packages. Truman did. He comes walking in with his big happy grin on his face, and he starts singing, "Jingle bells, mortar shells, BC in the grass. Take your Merry Christmas and shove it up your ass." Well, that's the way we were. We weren't choir boys, that's for sure. So we unpacked our packages, and I lucked out. I had my friends had put together a nice package. I had magazines, car magazines, I think a Playboy, had some books that they knew I thought I'd like, and they had packed inside aluminum cans so that they couldn't be x-rayed, some Johnny Walker, some Southern Comfort, and you know, I shared, of course, I shared my bounty with everybody else, and they shared cookies and everything with me, and we had a nice little Christmas time, Christmas Day in Vietnam. But a few days later, we were out in the bush again, and we were tasked with our mission was to once again look over, try to find the enemy and observe the Ho Chi Minh Trail. Well, the Ho Chi Minh Trail it's not just one trail. Sometimes it was a road, but it was also split with multiple trails going through the jungle in a particular area. And we had landed on an observation post, set up an observation post to overlook this area. And it wasn't long before we saw a lot of NVA traffic going through there, through the valley. As a matter of fact, hundreds of men. We saw the NVA pushing bicycles low to us, look like sacks of rice or maybe munitions or something along the trail. We thought we hit the jackpot, and I was with a team. Truman and I had been assigned to another team because two or three of their men actually 3 men had gotten wounded in a previous mission, and one of the men actually died from that encounter. So this team needed support, and they would take other men from other teams if they needed them, and I was chosen to join them. Not something that happened very often, but it did happen occasionally, particularly when men were lost and they needed someone to fill in. So we had our binoculars on this valley, and I never saw so many troops. They were literally flowing out of the jungle, and it was January 1st of the new year. It was the new year, and these guys were out for blood. They wanted to avenge their comrades, and they wanted they were expecting that we could call in airstrikes or artillery strikes on these troop movements, because it was massive amounts of men being moved across this valley, and they all seemed to be NVA. They all had the camouflage utilities and everything. There was even what looked like a 4x4 that they were pushing through the jungle there. Now it was loaded with supplies and men. We never saw anything like that before. Usually, it was even if it was a lot of men, they were separated, by 20 men, and then a space, and then another 20 men, And this is just a pouring of troops, through that valley, and they were actually moving more or less toward us. We were afraid we were going to get surrounded. So, God, Sergeant, call in that artillery strikes. Let's do it now. We calls in and they get the strange word, wait. What do you mean, wait? So the word comes back. Well, you can't call in the artillery, guys. We gotta wait. This is a truce has been declared. A truce. He goes, yeah, truce. We found out later that the Pope had initiated a truce between the VC and the Americans, not the NVA. I don't think. But anyway, it was a 36 or 48-hour truce at this point. So all we could do was observe. Man, I never saw Truman be so upset. He was livid. He couldn't believe it. He goes, kept on saying, "What are we here for? What are we here for? What's going on? Call in that artillery." Look. Oh, I felt the same way, but there was nothing, no orders or orders. We had to wait. And as the longer we waited, the closer these columns came to our position. And if they had ever seen us, ever determined, we would have been dead meat, because there were so many of them, and they were all loaded for bear. Well, Sergeant eventually, after we stayed there for a day and just monitored this massive movement, and at the end of the day, at the end of that second day, he says, "No, we got to get out of here. We're going to get cut off for sure." So we called in for an extraction, and we were extracted out. But that was the truce that the North Vietnamese took advantage of it, and why not? I don't think they even agreed to it. It was the VC that had agreed to it, and even though they were in cahoots, there was still a difference. In any case, our powers that be, they who knew best, didn't allow us to perform our mission, to perform our job. And I think a lot of men died because of that decision, because of that Christmas truce, because it wasn't equal. It was not an equal situation. Well, that was Christmas in Vietnam around 1968.